Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudiraye. नष्टप्रायेषु अभद्रेषु नित्यं भागवत सेवया भगवतीरुत्तमश्लोके भक्तिर्भवति नैष्टिकी ॐ अज्ञानतिमिरन्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। श्रीचैतन्यमनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूपकदा मह्यं ददाति स्वपदान्तिकं। नमो विष्णुपादाय कृष्णप्रेष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्त स्वामीनिति नामिने। नमस्ते सरस्वते देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेषः शून्यवादी पाश्चात्यदेशतारिणे। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभो नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्त वृंद। हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे। Hare Krishna. Reading from Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. We are reading from Canto 3, Chapter 22, the marriage between Kardama Muni and Devahūti. So, we just yesterday started this chapter. This chapter has 5 sections. Text 1 to 7, Manu is glorifying Kardama Muni. So, we have seen very elaborately Manu, Svāyambhuva Manu, he glorifies Kardama Muni, although Kardama is very younger in age, but he is greater in the authority because he is a mendicant. So, this is what we see. Kardama Muni is being glorified by Manu. Second section is now we will come to that. Manu offers Devahūti to Kardama Muni in marriage. Third section, 15 to 20, Kardama Muni accepts Devahūti, and Devahūti is in full agreement with whole thing. In fact, she is looking forward marrying to Kardama Muni. Right. 21 to 27, there is a description of marriage between Kardama Muni and Devahūti. And 28 to 39, Manu's wonderful rule is being explained. How Manu, the great personality he was. Right. Once again, 1 to 7, Manu glorifies Kardama Muni. Then 8 to 14, Manu offers Devahūti to Kardama Muni in marriage. Then 15 to 20, Kardama Muni accepts Devahūti. 21 to 27, marriage between Kardama Muni and Devahūti. 28 to 39, Manu's wonderful rule is being explained. Manu departs back to his abode and his rule is being explained. So we are in the first section, that is Manu glorifying Kardama Muni. Text 6. Very beautiful verse. We will recite this. Drishtya me Bhagavan Drushto.
Drishtya me Bhagavan Drushto.
Durdasho yo Krutatmanam.
Durdashoyo Krutatmanam.
Drishtya Padarajas Prishtam.
Drishtya Pajarajaha Prishtam.
Tirshnami Bhavata Shivam.
Krishnarme Bhavataha Shivam.
Translation.
It is my good fortune that I have been able to see you, for you cannot easily be seen by persons who have not subdued the mind or controlled the senses. I am all the more fortunate to have touched with my head the blessed dust of your feet. Purport. The perfection of transcendental life can be achieved simply by touching the holy dust of the lotus feet of a holy man. In the Bhagavatam it is said, Mahat Pada Rajo Abhishekam, which means to be blessed by the holy dust of the lotus feet of a Mahat, a great devotee. As stated in Bhagavad Gita, Mahatmanastu, those who are great souls are under the spell of spiritual energy, and their symptom is that they fully engage in Krishna consciousness for the service of the Lord. Therefore, they are called Mahat. Unless one is fortunate enough to have the dust of the lotus feet of a Mahatma on one's head, there is no possibility of perfection in spiritual life. The parampara system of disciplic succession is very important as a means of spiritual success. One becomes a Mahat by the grace of his Mahat spiritual master. If one takes shelter of the lotus feet of a great soul, there is every possibility of one's also becoming a great soul. When Maharaj Rahugana asked Jadabharata about the wonderful achievement of spiritual success, he replied to the king that spiritual success is not possible simply by following the rituals of religion or simply by converting oneself into a sannyasi or offering sacrifices as recommended in the scriptures. These methods are undoubtedly helpful for spiritual realization, but the real effect is brought about by the grace of a Mahatma. In Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur's eighth stanza of prayer to the spiritual master, it is clearly stated that simply by satisfying the spiritual master, one can achieve the supreme success in life. And in spite of executing all ritualistic performances, if one cannot satisfy the spiritual master, one has no access to spiritual perfection. Here, the word akrutatmanam is very significant. Atma means body, soul, or mind, and akrutatma means the common man who cannot control the senses or mind. Because the common man is unable to control the senses and the mind, it is his duty to seek the shelter of a great soul or a great devotee of the Lord and just try to please him. That will make his life perfect. A common man cannot rise to the topmost stage of spiritual perfection simply by following the rituals and religious principles. He has to take shelter of a bona fide spiritual master and work under his direction faithfully and sincerely. Then he becomes perfect without a doubt. Hare Krishna.
So, very beautiful verse. Drishyami Bhagavan Drishno Durdasho Yo Kritatmanam Drishtya Padarajas Prishtam Shirshnami Bhavata Shivam. Very, very beautiful verse. In fact, this is the verse one should really recite in one's mind when one sees very senior devotee or, what to speak of spiritual master, of course, spiritual master, but when very senior devotee, like I should be reciting this verse when I come across personality like His Grace Radhesham Prabhu, Gaurang Darshan Prabhu, Amarendra Prabhu, Braj Bihari Prabhu, or, these are the personalities I derive my maximum inspiration from, or Radha Gopinath Prabhu, even Revati Pati Prabhu, okay, Sri Guru Charan Prabhu. So these are the very wonderful personalities, Krishna Kishore Prabhu, so on and so forth. So it is my good fortune that I have been able to see you, Drishtami Bhagavan Drishto, for you cannot be seen by the person who are not subdued their mind and senses, akritatmanam. I am all the more fortunate to have touched my head at the dust of your lotus feet. Now look at this. This is Svāyambhuva Manu, who is a samrat and is a young, Kardama Muni. So there is authority of Kardama Muni as well. And one can see humility of Svāyambhuva Manu as well. In the purport, Srila Prabhupada writes, of course, a wrong lesson to derive from this is we should not expect, the son, daughter, the son-in-law or father-in-law, this kind of a relationship. This is very, very special. Okay, if the son-in-law is not qualified that the Supreme Personality of Godhead appears personally in front of him, then the thing is another thing. But here, Kardama Muni is extremely qualified. And so also Svāyambhuva Manu. In the purport, Srila Prabhupada writes, the perfection of transcendental life can be achieved simply by touching the holy dust of the lotus feet of a holy man. So it is very important to touch the feet of the holy people. And that is called as Mahatpaja Rajobhishekam. That there are the Mahatmas who have taken shelter of the Supreme Lord. Mahatmanastu Mam Partha. What is the symptom? Daivim Prakriti Mashritaha. Who is called as Mahatma? Mahatma, Prabhupada used to say, it is not a rubber stamp. You call this as Mahatma, that as Mahatma, he has done this as for, let him is also Mahatma. No. Mahatma is a personality who has taken shelter. Mahatmanastu mam partha daivim prakritim ashritah. He has taken shelter of the divine energy of the Supreme Lord. Satatam kirtayanto mam. That is a Mahatma. And one has to take the shelter of such a personality by bathing oneself the dust of the lotus feet of such a personality. Otherwise, there is no possibility of perfection. Vina mahat pada rajo abhishekam. Prahlad Maharaj also says this. Prabhupada later quotes, Prabhupada says, and therefore, parampara system is very important for the means of spiritual success. Why parampara system is important? Parampara system is nothing but it is the series of the Mahatmas one after another. One becomes Mahat by following the grace of the Mahat spiritual master. And when we take the shelter of the lotus feet of such a spiritual master, then there is always a possibility of becoming oneself also a great soul. So Prabhupada says, when we follow the great soul, that, then you will also become a great soul. This is so simple. Just like, there are players, they will follow their coach. Very, very meticulously, they will follow the coach. And to the degree they will follow, to that degree, they themselves will become great players. Right. This is also confirmed by Jada Bharata. So Jada Bharata, he is giving instructions to Maharaja Rahugun. Jada Bharata says, again, the very similar thing. Rahugunai, na tapasa, na chejjaya. He says that not by tapasya, not by taking sannyas or doing, but following the instructions of a great personality, especially the spiritual master, then one can advance very quickly in Krishna consciousness. Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, he writes, Yasya prasadat bhagavat prasado, yasya aprasadat nagati kutopi. That one simply has to satisfy one's spiritual master. And by satisfying one's spiritual master, what is the meaning of taking dust off the lotus feet of spiritual master? That means following the instructions of the spiritual master. Right. Working hard in the mission of the spiritual master. That is the following. That is the meaning of taking dust off the feet of the spiritual master, apart from literally taking the dust. Right. So, and otherwise, if one cannot satisfy the spiritual master, he will have no success on the spiritual perfection. Later, Srila Prabhupada focuses on the word akritatmanam. Akritatmanam means the spiritual success is not possible for those, neither they can understand the importance of a personality who is not controlled in one's mind and senses. Right. And therefore, to the degree one takes shelter of a great soul or a great devotee of the Lord and try to please him, the life will become very easily, one can perfect one's life. And especially in the bona fide system of parampara, one should take shelter of bona fide spiritual master. Text 7. Drishtya tvayanushishtoham कृतज्ञानुग्रहो महान अपावृतै कर्णरन्ध्रैर् दृष्ट्वा दिष्ट्यो शतिर्गिरः.
Translation. I have fortunately been instructed by you, and thus great favor has been bestowed upon me. I thank God that I have listened with open ears to your pure words. Purport. Srila Rupa Goswami has given directions in his Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu on how to accept a bona fide spiritual master and how to deal with him. First, the desiring candidate must find a bona fide spiritual master, and then he must very eagerly receive instructions from him and execute them. This is reciprocal service. A bona fide spiritual master or saintly person always desires to elevate a common man who comes to him. Because everyone is under the delusion of Maya and is forgetful of his prime duty, Krishna consciousness, a saintly person, always desires that everyone become a saintly person. It is the function of a saintly person to invoke Krishna consciousness in every forgetful common man. Manu said that since he was advised and instructed by Kardama Muni, he was very much favored. He considered himself lucky to receive the message by oral reception. It is specially mentioned here that one should be very inquisitive to hear with open ears from the authorized source of the bona fide spiritual master. How is one to receive? One should receive the transcendental message by oral reception. The word Karna Randraya means through the holes of the ears. The favor of the spiritual master is not received through any other part of the body but the ears. This does not mean, however, that the spiritual master gives a particular type of mantra through the years in exchange for some dollars, and if the man meditates on that, he achieves perfection and becomes God within 6 months. Such reception through the years is bogus. The real fact is that a bona fide spiritual master knows the nature of a particular man and what sort of duties he can perform in Krishna consciousness, and he instructs him in that way. He instructs him through the ear, not privately, but publicly. You are fit for such and such work in Krishna consciousness. You can act in this way. One person is advised to act in Krishna consciousness by working in the deity's room. Another is advised to act in Krishna consciousness by performing editorial work. Another is advised to do preaching work. And another is advised to carry out Krishna consciousness in the cooking department. There are different departments of activity in Krishna consciousness, and a spiritual master, knowing the particular ability of a particular man, trains him in such a way that by his tendency to act, he becomes perfect. Bhagavad Gita makes it clear that one can attain the highest perfection of spiritual life simply by offering service according to his ability, just as Arjuna served Krishna by his ability in the military art. Arjuna offered his service fully as a military man, and he became perfect. Similarly, an artist can attain perfection simply by performing artistic work under the direction of the spiritual master. If one is a literary man, he can write articles and poetry for the service of the Lord under the direction of the spiritual master. One has to receive the message of the spiritual master regarding how to act in one's capacity, for the spiritual master is expert in giving such instructions. This combination, the instruction of the spiritual master and the faithful execution of the instruction by the disciple, makes the entire process perfect. Sri Vishwanatha Chakravarti Thakur describes in his explanation of the verse in Bhagavad Gita, Vyasayatta Mikha Buddhiha, that one who wants to be certain to achieve spiritual success must take the instruction from the spiritual master as to what his particular function is. He should faithfully try to execute that particular instruction and should consider that his life and soul. The faithful execution of the instruction which he receives from the spiritual master is the only duty of a disciple, and that will bring him perfection. One should be very careful to receive the message from the spiritual master through the ears and execute it faithfully. That will make one's life successful. Hare Krishna.
Manu now concludes his prayers to Kardama Muni. He says, I have fortunately been instructed by you, and thus a great favor has been bestowed upon me. I thank God that I have listened with open ears your pure words. In the purport, Srila Prabhupada explains that Srila Rupa Goswami in Bhakti Rasamrit Sindhu gives the process of how to accept bona fide spiritual master and how to deal with him. The first thing is that one must approach a bona fide spiritual master and very eagerly receive instructions from him to execute. Right. So the bona fide spiritual master or a genuinely, truly saintly person, he will be always very compassionate and always desiring upliftment of people in general. Right. So therefore, the function of the Prabhupada writes here, the function of a saintly person is to invoke Krishna consciousness in every forgetful common man. So Manu is glorifying Kardama Muni. He's saying that, my dear Kardama, you have instructed me in this way, and thus I am very greatly favored. And I was lucky that I could come across you and I would hear you with open ears. Prabhupada says this is Karna Randraihi. This is the real way of attaining the spiritual knowledge. The mercy of the spiritual master is attained through Karna Randraihi. It is not that you go to Guru and you touch the feet of the Guru, and Guru transmits the knowledge to disciple, and the disciple gets an electric shock kind of a thing, and Guru is crying, he's stunned and crying that I have become empty, all my power has gone to Shishya. This is a bogus display of Guru Shishya Parampara, so called. It's a very, very famous instance in India that a particular Shishya went to Guru and Guru touched him and the Shishya got a shock. Prabhupada says, spiritual life, 1 minus 1 is not 0. 1 minus 1 is also 1. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate. Right. So it is not that when the spiritual master empowers a disciple, spiritual master becomes empty and disciple is smiling and laughing like that and guru is crying. So no, this is neither the second is, Prabhupada says, neither the second is that one goes to guru and purchase a particular mantra and the guru says that give me $1,000 and take this mantra and in 6 months you will become God and you will realize you are God. Prabhupada says no. The spiritual master will openly instruct the disciple and will engage the disciple as per the psychophysical propensity of the particular disciple. Somebody is asked to cook for Krishna, somebody is asked to do editorial work, somebody is asked to do preaching work, somebody is asked to do DT department. Based on particular ability of a particular man, they should be engaged in the service of the Supreme Lord. And Bhagavad Gita says, Sindhit Vindanti Manavaha. By such engagement, according to one's psychophysical nature, one can actually attain perfection. Example is Arjuna. Arjuna was a warrior and he is asked to perform his duty as a warrior. He wanted to become a beggar. But no, Krishna said, no, you are a warrior, you act like a warrior, rule the world like a warrior, and by doing so, you will become Krishna conscious. So Prabhupada says somebody may be Arjuna, somebody may be artist, so he will be asked to paint. Somebody is a writer, he will be asked to write in the service of the Lord. So according to one's psychophysical nature, one will be engaged in the service of the Lord. And by doing that service, one will gradually become liberated. This combination, Prabhupada says, what is the combination? Instruction by the bona fide spiritual master and the faithful execution by the disciple can make the entire process successful. And therefore, it is called as Vyavasayatmika Buddhihi, the pinpointed focus on the instruction of spiritual master. And Prabhupada quotes Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur. Yes. And this is very, very famous the quote by Srila Prabhupada, because Prabhupada says, when I read this for the first time, this particular instruction by Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, then Prabhupada says, I immediately remembered the instruction of my spiritual master to me. And Prabhupada says that is the only duty of a disciple, to faithfully execute the instruction of bona fide spiritual master. And in this case, Vando Muni Savadhana Mate, one should be very careful to receive the message and through one's ears and execute faithfully. And that will bring one's success in the life, spiritual life. Now we come to the second section of this chapter. Text 8 to 14, Manu is offering Devahūti. Text 8. Na bhavan sabhavan duhitar sneha pariklishtat mano shrotumarhasi dinasya shravitam krupaya mune. Translation.
O great sage, graciously be pleased to listen to the prayer of my humble self. For my mind is troubled by affection for my daughter. Purport. When a disciple is perfectly in consonance with the spiritual master, having received his message and executed it perfectly and sincerely, he has a right to ask a particular favor from the spiritual master. Generally, a pure devotee of the Lord or a pure disciple of a bona fide spiritual master does not ask any favor either from the Lord or the spiritual master. But even if there is a need to ask a favor from the spiritual master, one cannot ask that favor without satisfying him fully. Svāyambhuva Manu wanted to disclose his mind regarding the function he wanted to execute due to affection for his daughter.
Now Svāyambhuva Manu says, O great sage, graciously be pleased to listen the prayer of my humble self, because my mind is troubled by affection for my daughter. In the purport, Srila Prabhupada writes, when a disciple is perfectly in sync with the spiritual master, having received the message and executed it perfectly and sincerely, he has a right to ask a particular favor from spiritual master. Right? Huh? Daya Bhak. So in Bhagavatam also there is this word comes. Daya Bhak means he is the right to ask the. So generally a devotee is not interested in asking a particular favor. and either from the Lord or from the spiritual master, is simply engaged in the pure devotional service. Na dhanam, na janam, na sundarim, Prabhupada says, right? Kavitam va jagadisha kamaye. But when he has to ask a particular favor, he should have completely pleased his spiritual master. And now Svāyambhuva Manu is introducing her daughter Devahūti. So daughter's marriage is very special moment in the life of a couple, parents, husband and wife, and especially for the father, because daughter is very close to father generally, right? Later, Svāyambhuva Manu calls Devahūti Amba also. He says that, my dear daughter, you are like my mother. Like that, he calls very beautiful verses. So now this is the introduction of who is Devahūti. Now he is, in a royal way, the way he has taken shelter of Kardama Muni, glorified Kardama Muni, with the grace and dignity, Kardama Muni instructed Manu, and now with the same grace and dignity, Manu is going to introduce Devahūti to Kardama Muni. Priyavrtauttana padoho swaseyam duhita mamaha anvichati patim yuktam vaya shila gunadibi. Translation.
My daughter is the
My
sister
daughter,
of Priyavrata. Please read, Mataji.
my daughter is the sister of Priyavata and Uttanpad. She is seeking a suitable husband in terms of age, character, and good qualities. Purport: the grown-up daughter of Svāyambhuva Muni, Devahūti, had good character and was well qualified. Therefore, she was searching for a suitable husband just befitting her age, qualities, and character. The purpose of Manu's introducing his daughter as the sister of Priyavrata and Uttanapada, two great kings, was to convince the sage that the girl came from a great family. She was his daughter and at the same time the sister of Kshatriya. She did not come from a lower class family. Manu therefore offered her to Kardama as just suitable for his purpose. It is clear that although the daughter was mature in age and qualities, she did not go out and find her husband independently. She expressed her desire for a suitable husband corresponding to her character, age, and quality. And the father himself, out of affection for his daughter, took charge of finding such a husband. Hare Krishna.
Manu, he introduces his daughter. My daughter. Who is he? First thing is she is the daughter of Svāyambhuva Manu, the emperor, Chakravarti Samrat of the universe. My daughter. So that my itself is an introduction to her. And she is the sister of Priyavrat and Uttanapad. Now Priyavrat, there will be section after section, Bhagavatam will be glorifying Priyavrat. And later one verse Bhagavatam says, only the Supreme Personality of Godhead can do what Priyavrat has done. Okay, it means what Priyavrat did is impossible for any mortal being to repeat. Only the Lord, of course, Lord can do anything. So this is the glory of Priyavrat. And then Uttanapad. Uttanapad is very famous for his son Dhruva Maharaj. So he is the sister of these two great kings, Priyavrat and Uttanapad. And she is my daughter. I am Svāyambhuva Manu. And she is seeking a suitable husband, Vaya Shila Guna Adibhi, in terms of age, character, and good qualities. And surprisingly, there is no money here. But money is very important. Okay. Because we have worked in the marriage board also. That is also very important criteria. In the purport, Srila Prabhupada writes, the grown-up daughter of Svāyambhuva Manu, Devahūti, was very well qualified. And now there is a search of a suitable husband, which is befitting Vaya Guna Shila Adibhi, befitting her age, qualities, and characters. Now, what is the purpose of giving her introduction? So he says that my daughter is coming from a very high lineage, right? She is a great Kshatrani. She is my daughter and sister of these two great kings. And thus, she is looking for somebody who is mature in age and qualities, character. So Now, to check the maturity of character, age, and qualities, of course, one has to see the external factors. We don't say beautiful and handsome. These are not the words generally used. We say that presentable. Not that everybody cannot be beautiful, but so some boy said, Prabhuji, I want a beautiful wife. I said, you are not a handsome husband, handsome boy. How you'll get a beautiful wife? So then what is the criteria? Criteria we say that say presentable. Presentable. The presentable, is a right word. Instead of outrightly looking for beautiful or handsome, presentable. And then, so these are the external considerations, but the real considerations in terms of one's karma match, it is very highly recommended that one should match the kundali of the boy and girl, right? So recently there are many devotees who are studying kundali and everything. So of course, one extreme is not to get carried away with the Jyotisha aspect. Another extreme is not to absolutely consult it. So these are two extremes. Generally, we will see. One extreme is that it's a Prabhuji, I am devotee, she is devotee, devotee is marrying devotee, and just simply go ahead. Life doesn't work that way, right? Salt is white, milk is white. If you mix them, both will be spoiled. So you just cannot, like a particular community, they will just like mix anybody with anybody, one particular religion. So that doesn't work. That is one extreme. Quoting that I am devotee, she is devotee, and everything will go great if we marry. No, that doesn't work. Another extreme of Jyotisha is, one is even going to if you Raisham Prabhu's words, how he wants to make a joke of it. Even going to toilet when you ask Prabhuji, what is the muhurta and when should I go to toilet? Not like that. So 4 things specifically they are recommended when Jyotisha should be consulted. One is, the marriage. Another is some career counseling, marriage, career. And I will get back to you on this. Very recently, we just concluded finally after a lot of discussion. These are the 4 things one should consult Jyotisha. BMCC, we had the short form. B is for, I will get back to you on this. So, character, age, and quality, they can be very nicely seen. The compatibility, the psychophysical compatibility can be seen through the Kundali match. So it is very important that one will match the Kundali before going ahead with the marriage. So we will conclude here and continue tomorrow. Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Gaura Bhakta Vrinda ki jai. Thank you, Prabhupada. Thank you, everyone. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
Thank you, Prabhupada. Thank you, Prabhuji.
Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Okay, everyone.
Thank you,
Thank you,
Prabhupada.
Prabhupada.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
Thank
Thank
you,
you,
Prabhuji.
Hare
Hare
Krishna.
Krishna.
Prabhuji,
Hare
thank
Krishna.
you, Prabhupada. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Krishna Prabhuji, down from Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Yes.
Prabhu, I mean, I heard about Priyavrata also in the Bhagavat, that whole universe thing, so in the cosmos thing. But Uttanapad, I mean, we didn't hear positive much about Uttanapad. So, was there something about also him which is not glorified so much about Uttanapad?
Uttanapad, later you will see in one verse of Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam, Uttanapad is considered as the Shaktavish avatar of the Supreme Lord.
Oh,
Right?
okay.
Yeah. So he's not Vishnu Tattva, he's Jiva Tattva only, but
Okay.
he's considered as Shaktavish avatar. He's Uttanapad. But that one, instance
Yeah.
of not siding with Dhruva, the whole glory is, it's covered over.
Okay.
And Dhruva is glorified so much. And by the virtue of Dhruva being glorified, even Uttanapad is also glorified.
Okay.
Okay, but Uttanapad is considered as a, Shaktavesh avatar. Later also you will see one verse where Dhritarashtra was also a very nice devotee of Lord Krishna.
Okay.
He
After.
was also very nice devotee of Lord Krishna in the sense of Lord Viṣṇu that way.
Okay.
But somehow he was with Putra Prema, he became so blinded over that it was like very it was like very thickly covered over his even the devotional aspect, the sentiment. And when all sons were killed, he was like practically slapped by Vidura with his very strong words. Then he came to senses, then he perfected his life. Imagine.
Yes.
Right? Yeah. So this is specifically the Vedic culture. We are not perpetually inimical to somebody. That is the Western concept. eternally going to hell. Ashwatthama, such a heinous person he is, killing the Upapandavas when they were sleeping, and hitting Brahmastra when Parikshit Maharaj in the womb. Such a heinous crime this person is going to make, but he is not eternally condemned. See, this eternal condemnation is an Abrahamic idea. This is not a Vedic idea, right? So he is punished. He is severely punished, but it is said that he is punished for 3,000 years. He will wander around, and next time, when the next kalpa begins, he will be one very senior Vyasa person, a very senior personality in the universe. He's purified, and then suitable role is given to him. Like that it is.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah, there's somewhere they meant, I read and I saw in some temple in Nepal that there are some 12 Chiranjeevis or something, and Ashwatthama is one.
Ashwatthama is one of them. Yes, 12 Chiranjeevis are there.
So they're the
Chiranjeevi
only
means they live through the kalpa.
entire kalpa, that whole one day of
Yeah,
Brahma.
or Manvantara, yeah, or Manu's period or Kalpa's period.
Okay. So that long they have to live in the same body.
No. So, their body and our body is different. Like Bibhishan is Chiranjeevi, Hanuman is Chiranjeevi. Hanumanji's body and our body is different.
Okay.
Right. Every body is different. Everybody is different. Okay, that way.
Okay.
So Ashwatthama is purified now. And, then he is living wherever he is living. And when the suitable time comes, he will take over as his role of, particular role, and then he will move on. Like that it is.
Okay. Thank
Right.
you.
Thank you, Prabhupada.
Thank you, Prabhupada. Thank you, Hare Krishna.